It's Hunter Dawkins. This is my module two discussion. Like last time, I had my notes right here in order to just kind of reference them. So if I look down, that's what's going on. But after watching Ethnic Notions, the first question is pick out any scene in the film Ethnic Notions and discuss how the scene made you think about X or made you question X or got you to reflect on how you had not thought about X until you saw X. So what I saw was what I chose was the very beginning was very striking to me. Being a history teacher, I can't tell you how many times I've looked at textbooks and primary sources and pictures from back in history, and you see the African Americans being portrayed as looking like cartoon characters, with very dark skin, very big eyes, very big lips. It's really a racist ideology that has been in our society or was in our society for the betterment of centuries. Um, it was making fun of the way they looked because they felt like and saw them as less of a human being. Um, it really got me to question why that was okay. Why people believe that it was okay to make fun of the way people looked when they didn't really even look that way. But we'll talk about that kind of imaginary representation versus that real representation later on in the next question. But it kind of makes me think like they sit there and they make fun of them because that's how they're raised. That's how they're brought up in society. Um, Back in that time, that was okay. That was what they talked about. That's how they talked to them. They were less than a human being, and they thought that making fun of them was what they should do, and thought it was an okay thing to do, and really and truly, ultimately, it's not, and we all know that. It got me to think about also. Me and my wife were big Disney people, and there's a ride there, Splash Mountain, and Splash Mountain was after the was kind of loosely themed to the movie Song of the South, old movie, way before my time. Um, but Briar Rabbit, um, that whole there was a big uproar, and they eventually changed it because of when you go back and look at the Song of the South, the movie, very racist portrayal of African Americans. It makes fun of their appearance. It even goes as far as to creating. It was some part of the movie they had to create a little baby to try to distract the fox, and he makes a tar baby, and that's a racist slur for African Americans, and um, that's not okay. And that was seen as okay because these people were living in that imaginary representation, that ideology, that racist ideology of that's how their society, that's the societal norm back then. And it was okay. And for it to be in a Hollywood movie or a Disney movie really kind of struck a chord with a lot of people. And it finally got to the point where they couldn't ignore it no more. They had to change the ride because of that racist ideology from that movie. You have people that push back against it and say, "Well, no, that's not really. You can't take a ride because of that." But they did because it's not. It was that imaginary representation. It was a racist ideology. That's kind of really what stuck out to me is how the portrayal of the African Americans in film, in um, media, how it had gotten to the point where they were just making them cartoonish and not making them look like human beings. And it really struck a chord because it bothered me and has always bothered me. The second question: how does what you witness in the film resonate with Althusser's? I probably butchered that name. Definition of ideology as the imaginary representation of one's real conditions of existence. Like I said, that doesn't correspond to reality. He says it in there that the imaginary relationship to one's real conditions of existence. It doesn't correspond. That doesn't correspond to reality. It's that imaginary representation versus real representation. African Americans don't look cartoonish. They don't look like that. They look like normal human beings, and that's the real representation. The imaginary representation is where these people that think it's okay for that to happen, they live. They live in that imaginary representation where they think, oh well, that's my beliefs and that's what I'm going to stick with. And it's not right. You know that ideology. versus illusion. It's an illusion. It's an illusion that they're living in. Um, like I said, we know that African Americans don't look like cartoon characters. It is the ideology of racism that has caused them to be portrayed in that manner. It was the social norm for so long, um, where, like I said, they were seen as less than a human being. You go back to our Constitution when it was written, and you can still go look at it today. Obviously, they've changed it with amendments, but the original the writing in the Constitution, African Americans were counted only as 3/5 of a human being, and it's crazy to think that we were going to let them fight in a war and be members of society, but they're only 3/5 of a person. They're not a whole person. That's always been crazy to me, and I always I point that out to my students. Like, this was the way life was. That we created a governing document that says these people live here, who work here, who do everything here, they're not a whole human being. It's that it's that racist ideology. It's that illusion. Um, it doesn't correspond to reality because we know that's not how they are and how they look. Um, but that's about what I got for this module 2. I look forward to watching and going and talking back and forth with y'all on y'all's. I hope you kind of understood and went along with or understand what I was trying to say. I hope y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later.